Hi everyone, welcome back to Musings, and this time it's going to be about Nintendo's latest rather bizarre idea, very creative idea, but an idea that I kind of wonder might be more a problem than it is a benefit to them, namely Nintendo Labo. Now, for those of you who are unaware what this is, it's a weird combination of software for the Nintendo Switch and cardboard boxes. It's a bit more involved than that, admittedly. What you've got is a system of cardboard boxes that you put together in various unique ways, and it works with the software to form some imaginative ideas for use of the Switch and various bits and pieces. But I'm not too sure if I'm sold on the concept. Let's put it this way: I'm not going to spend these Labo packs. There's two main packs. One retails for 60 quid. The other one retails for 70 quid. I know you get software, so that's actually the majority of the cost of that. But nonetheless, it feels like you're spending out £60 to £70 for cardboard boxes, which I'm not personally prepared to do. If I were to, win this stuff in a competition, then I'd give it a try, but it's not something that I'm prepared to actually spend my money on. I don't see the value of that, as it were. I don't think it's worth as much as Nintendo seem to think it's worth, so I won't be buying this anytime soon. Now, as you can see from the pictures coming across on the screen, you can use these kits in various different ways for various different purposes. You've got racing games, you've also got fishing games, you've got some sort of robot transformer style thing going on, you've got something to do with a piano. There's all kinds of unique ways of using this stuff, and it is certainly very clever. As mentioned earlier on, it's imaginative, and that's one of the things that Nintendo are. They are very imaginative. There's no question of that. But I sometimes wonder if they're trying too hard to be different. When you look at the success that they've had in the past with some of their ideas, you can understand why they want to be different. But equally, sometimes they'll try too hard and their ideas don't work. When you look at the original Nintendo Wii, it was very, very unique. It was very different to what the competition were doing at the time, and the Wii worked. It was a huge success story. It made Nintendo a lot of money. They sold a lot of units. We can talk a lot about the quality of the console and things like that, but there's no denying that from a business perspective, it was very successful for Nintendo. But then I think that maybe we're perhaps too emboldened by that, and the Wii U was a very mixed, muddled message, and unfortunately it failed. And it failed quite miserably for Nintendo. The idea of this controller with the touchscreen, it was a very unwieldy controller. Developers didn't want to incorporate this second screen into their games, and it was very awkward. So Nintendo tried to push the envelope too hard, and unfortunately it backfired. Now they've come to the Switch, which maybe is a little bit of a step back in some ways. It's still very Nintendo, it's still very different, it's still quite quirky. And it's worked for them. The Switch has proven so far to be very, very successful. And then they go and do this thing with this Labo stuff and these cardboard boxes. And I just wonder, are they pursuing the right direction with this? And even if the Labo proves to be a success, and even if the Switch proves to be a long-term success, where do Nintendo go from here? Because we've seen in the past, when they've had a successful idea, they've then taken it too far, and it's become a white elephant for them. It's become a problem for them. what they perhaps should be thinking of doing is, even if the Labo is a success, even if the Switch proves to be a long-term success, which is looking likely to be, where do you take the idea from there? How do you go forward with that? I'm not a console designer or a games developer by any stretch of the imagination, so no doubt there are people much smarter than me working for Nintendo who are thinking of the next generation of ideas. They've probably got something on the drawing board for their next console already. But if by some miracle anyone from Nintendo were to actually watch this video, then what I would be saying is, by all means, continue to be a family-friendly company, continue to think outside the box, even if thinking outside the box means thinking about boxes. But by the same token, when you look at what your most successful spell was, which was arguably the Super Nintendo and N64 eras, that was very much about pure gaming experience. That wasn't about these different and unique ideas. This wasn't about stuff like Labo or motion controls or things like that. By all means, if you can find a way to incorporate that, terrific. But sooner or later, what people are going to want from Nintendo, and what I would like to see from Nintendo, is a console along the lines of an Xbox or PlayStation, which I'm sure Nintendo can develop, that then brings games like your Zeldas and your Marios and your Pokemon and your Star Fox bang up to date. And Nintendo could have that alongside the popular third-party games like your FIFAs, like your Battlefields, like your Call of Duties, like your Grand Theft Autos. There's no reason why we couldn't have all of that on one console. And there's no reason why Nintendo couldn't still continue to develop ideas around motion controls to go with that. There's no reason why they couldn't still have a Switch-style controller, perhaps, incorporated into one of these consoles. And you can then perhaps use that alongside something like the Labo, or you can use it with motion controls. But I think going forward, Nintendo needs to think very carefully about what gamers want and about how far you can take these ideas. Because although the Switch is proving to be successful now, if things go south, if things go backward for Nintendo, they can't really afford another failure like the Wii U. They can't actually cope with that and expect to carry on going forward as a credible console manufacturer and games company. It would really hurt them. So at some point they need to think perhaps less outside the box, and they do need to think to themselves, if we want to be a truly big name, if we want to remain a truly big name in the console world, then we've got to think about what our competitors are doing. Because let's face it, both Microsoft and Sony have enjoyed ongoing, continuous success with their Xbox and PlayStation brands. And there's a reason for that. So at some point, Nintendo need to think not necessarily about copying these ideas, but thinking about how they can incorporate what Sony and Microsoft do into their own consoles. Because I would love to see a Legend of Zelda game backed up by the performance of a PS4 or an Xbox One. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I think that would be massively successful, and I think a lot of people would love to see that sort of thing come to life, to have the opportunity to have Nintendo's own sort of products alongside all the sort of very popular, successful third-party games. That would be onto an absolute winner. And sooner or later, Nintendo have to be thinking, you know what, we need to deliver this sort of thing. Because I think demand would be there. People would be happy to do that. I'd be happy to pay for a console like that. A lot of people would. So, by all means, be creative. And I'm sure the smart people at Nintendo can find a way to incorporate, these Switch and Labo style ideas into a console like that. But please, at some point, you need to think about doing that, Nintendo, so that we can get the best of both worlds. Because eventually gamers will tire of the quirkiness, especially if that's an unusual idea like the Wii U, which didn't work. Then the consequences for Nintendo could be very, very serious. And I don't want to see Nintendo disappear. I love Nintendo. I want them to be successful. I want them to thrive. But I'm not convinced that cardboard boxes are the best way forward.